What's up, people? I am back for another video. We're gonna continue. Sorry about that. We're gonna continue with the Pumpkinhead franchise. Watched Pumpkinhead 2 last night. I was gonna review Red Scorpion, but I just didn't think it was a movie. I'll just really quick describe it because I just didn't think it was worth doing a video on. It's a good movie. I just didn't have a lot to say. But really quick, it's a fun little 80s action movie. I would have just been saying that's all I really got to say about the movie because there's really not really much more to explore. It's set in Russia. You got Dolph Lundgren. Fun little film. I had fun with it. I would probably give it a 7. I just didn't feel like I needed to do a whole video on it. That's why I didn't do it. But we're going to just do Pumpkinhead right now. I'm going to watch Warfare of the Planet of the Apes today. If I don't review it today, we're definitely going to review it tomorrow because I'm going to watch it probably in a little bit here. And then I'll figure out what to do on Sunday. It depends on when I go see Bike Riders, and I don't even know if I'm gonna review that one. It depends on like how good it is. Because I saw like thinking of a movie I saw I didn't review last year, Iron Claw. Great film. I just didn't think it was one of those movies I needed to review. So I'll see if Bike Riders is gonna be like that. Because it might just be one I might just see. Maybe I'll talk about it in the video like that, like this, but not like do a whole video on it. We'll see. But Pumpkinhead 2. Continuing on with the franchise, I gotta say, Pumpkinhead 2 is pretty good for like a pretty good for a sequel. There's little things I didn't like. Like, I thought the lack of Lance Henriksen does hurt this film a little bit because I felt like the characters were a bit stronger in the first one, but I thought this one was fine. I like the little origin story it kind of gives Pumpkinhead. It's tied because he basically has an offspring named Tommy, who's like this deformed kid who gets killed by Judge Dixon, who eventually becomes a judge later on. But because they thought he was like a demon kid. You know, this is like the 50s. It made sense. People were very, almost still kind of superstitious in that sense. So it made sense. So they ended up killing him. Made it look like he suicided him. He killed himself. But so Mrs. Ozzy, who's like the old woman, she's like an old witch who you see later on. Then a new group of kids, Judge Dixon's son, newcomer Jenny, who's the daughter of Sean, who's the new sheriff, you might recognize him. He's the dad from Hellraiser. He's also in Cobra. I think he's in something else too. But those are probably like the two movies what I think of when I think of him as an actor. I think of like those two movies at first. So I thought he was a pretty good character. He's a sheriff who actually used to live in the town and actually met Tommy. He was kind of friends with him. Actually saved Tommy's life a couple years ago before he fell into the well. And then the kids accidentally run over Mrs. Ozzy, but then they go to her house to check on her, but they find a spell book. Basically, she was going to try to bring back Tommy. That's what the insinuation was. But what ended up happening is they do it, but obviously goes wrong. It turns out Tommy doesn't come back as Tommy. He comes back as Pumpkinhead. And basically, I like the idea of it almost writing two wrong. It has two vengeances because obviously initial vengeance of killing the people who killed Tommy back in the 50s, but also then getting the teens who, because they didn't help Mrs. Ozzy when they ran her over, but also her house caught on fire. She got burned. Also, we find out that we see Danny knock Mrs. Ozzy over, because she was trying to grab the blood from him, and he just knocked her over. So it has basically once revenge twice, and it's perfect. It's done well. I love the creature effects in this movie. The kills were great. You even have a Kane Hodder cameo. He's one of the Knox brothers. Because I remember I was watching this yesterday. I'm like, oh my god, I recognize that guy. I'm like, that's fucking Kane Hodder. It's just he's a little smaller. So Pumpkinhead kills Jason in this movie. And I thought Sean's a great character. The sheriff character, I thought he was a good character throughout the film. you see Dixon, he's like, he has his ways, still, like, he has a posse who tries to, 'cause they think it's initially a wildcat, but then they realize all the murders are tied together, and that's because throughout the crime scenes you see blood wings on the wall. That's why the movie's called Blood Wings. But it turns out they were Red Wings because it was the football team that Judge Dixon was on. And yeah, Jenny. The only weak thing is some of the characters. Like, I thought some of the characters were a little too, like, just simple, and I get it. This one was more about, like, the story of the creature than, like, the characters per se. But I wanted a little bit stronger characters. But that's, like, my only weak point in the movie. But everything else, I love the creature effects, great kills. The scene where they kill the creature kills the knives. It's probably my favorite kill in the entire movie. Just the entrance, like, the lights just go weird. Yeah. Also really love how I love the first one, but the one thing this one I think does do better than the first one, the way the town is fleshed out. There's much more of a town. Because in the first movie, you don't really get a glimpse of the town. You see a little bit of, like, it's more of like an area than a town. Like, this one, you actually get a look at the town. You see the different townspeople and all that. Like, I really like that they got that fleshed out. So that's definitely a positive. That's like one of the bigger positives of the movie for sure. Is they fleshed out the town much more. You get a little bit of the backstory. You still have that, like, Mrs. Ozzy sees, the Pumpkinhead doing the kills, just like with Lance Henriksen in the first one. So, but overall, great sequel. We'll see how the third one is. I don't know, because I saw it comes out in 2006. So some tells me this could probably be really shit. We'll see. But I figure, why not? It's only 4 movies, so I'll just finish it out. So Pumpkinhead 2, I'll give about a 7. It's kind of where I'm sitting. The plan is I'm gonna watch War for the Planet of the Apes. I'm gonna watch it. Pending on how I feel, I might review it tomorrow. If I review it tonight, it'll be really late. If I don't do it tonight, it'll be definitely tomorrow. I'll try to do it like in the afternoon or something tomorrow. If I don't do it tonight, but we'll see. But anyways, guys, let's get into Pumpkinhead 2. So the movie back in 1958, we see Mrs. Ozzy, but, like, obviously really a little bit younger. She still looked kind of old even back in 58. Calling Tommy and leaving him out some. I don't know exactly. It looked like, I guess, it looked like some kind of potatoes. I don't know what it was. But she left him out food. And then while he's trying to eat it, the Red Wing Dixon shows up and his boys show up. And they see Tommy, and they think he's some kind of, like, demon. Because the story goes, I'll jump ahead a little bit. Because the sheriff explains later in a scene, I think it's to his wife, that Tommy was this kid from nature, which we find out is actually an offspring from Pumpkinhead, from Mrs. Oshie later in the movie. OC, not Oshie, OC. Later in the movie. But to the town, he's just this wild man that would eat you. But it turns out he's just a normal kid because the sheriff saves him back when he was a kid and gave him, like, a fire truck and all that. So seemed normal, but the town thought he was bad, obviously, because he's ugly, he's, like, deformed. So it's almost like a Jason-ish kind of origin. So Dixon and his boys, who were part of the Detroit, the Red Wings, which was a local football team from the high school, end up killing Tommy. You know, they stab him, slash him. I think they even attacked Mrs. Osi. Like, I think they even hit her. One of like, and then you could tell Dixon was like, keep going because somebody had to do it. They slice him, they throw him in the well, and then they kill him. But we find out later that Tommy's murder was made to look like suicide because in the local papers it said he was hanged. So then we have a time jump. Now it's present day. This movie came out in '94, so it's like, oh, like I guess would have been like 6 years after the first film. Yeah, it would have been about 6 years or so, 5 or 6 years after the first Pumpkinhead, and we're introduced to Sheriff Cunningham. We just see him going through the town. That's the one thing I already like better. Is like I mentioned, I really love how they gave you more of a town compared to the first one, which I'm not mad because I think the first movie was more about really just giving you the legend, and I'm okay with them keeping it a bit smaller and local because it's more about the legend of the creature than the town. So I'm actually okay with that aspect of the film. But I'm at least what it does. This one does what a good sequel should do: expand the world. Like you get more of the town. You could tell it like this one feels lived in. And I thought the Sheriff Cunningham was a pretty good character throughout the film. I like that actor. I've genuinely, for most things I've seen him in, he's usually pretty good. Um, one of the first murder, we get our first murder. I'm just gonna jump ahead because really it's just a lot of setup. Like Mrs. Osi gets ran over. The kids do the spell. Because the kids are Danny, who's like a troublemaker basically, and his dad, because his dad is Judge Dixon, he can get away with things. And then you have I don't really remember. I'm gonna be honest. I don't really remember the other three. You have the black dude and his girlfriend who's like into supernatural stuff, and then the one other guy. I don't remember his name. I'm gonna be honest. Um, so Jenny starts dating Danny, but also that night, they do the thing, and it turns out the spell actually works. That's why I jumped ahead because it is a little bit of setup. Like it's not a long setup; it's just kind of quick. Mrs. Osi's house is on fire. She ends up getting burned in the process because as we see earlier, Danny knocks her over because she was trying to stop her from taking the blood because she was trying to stop them from raising Pumpkinhead, and that's what she was trying to stop them from doing. But too late. It's not Tommy that comes back with Pumpkinhead. We get our first kill. I don't remember the guy's name, but he's like one of the people that was part of the Judge Dixon's team. So he gets killed. He gets basically like sliced in half. Pretty brutal. Like not in half. Like his body parts just get sliced. So Sheriff Cunningham finds the body. And basically started because the murders pretty much happened pretty quick. Because then there was another murder, where there is one witness who's basically like scared to death, like scared, and it makes sense because she sees this creature, this hell creature. Some people don't know the story. They're going with a wildcat did the killing, but the coroner who's basically she's the character throughout the film. Um, and the creature just kills more people. That's kind of kills basically all of the Red Wings, the people who were involved in Tommy's murder. So they kill the Knox brothers. Those were like the last of them. Oh no, Dixon was, but before Dixon, yeah. So that's pretty much most of the film, and then obviously you have Cunningham coming to the scene of the crime. Sorry about the fucking helicopter. There's usually not helicopter active this fucking much. I don't know why there is one, but so yeah, like Sheriff Cunningham just at the crime scene, which I actually like those scenes. Him and the coroner trying to figure it out, and then there's a scene where he's at the table. His daughter overhears it, where they talk about this could be Pumpkinhead. And then Sheriff Cunningham says the rhyme because he's starting to kind of believe it because nothing else could have made those marks. Like there were just too many bodies like getting cut up to where I'm like, this couldn't have been a normal animal. Then he asked the coroner to look into Thomas, because that's where we learn about Thomas. That's the scene where he tells his wife, and then he tells the coroner about Tommy, and that his death may have been a murder, because they realize that the contusions and all the injuries that Tommy had definitely weren't just from a hang. Sorry, that's my dog. Definitely weren't just from a hanging. So, and then kill the Pumpkinhead kills Tommy. Like, this movie's not Tommy kills Judge Dixon. Mrs. O.C. dies, but before she dies, she basically kind of gives. I guess you can kind of call this like dialogue exposition dump, but it doesn't feel done. It's done well. I guess this is probably one of the few exposition dumps that's done well. She basically tells Tommy, tells Sheriff Cunningham and the coroner, like, this is what's happening, and she gives Cunningham like this necklace. Basically, it's a necklace to remind Creeper. I keep saying the Creeper, the Pumpkinhead, that this is from Tommy. So it's almost to like calm the creature down. Because pretty much after that, so the group meets together, because at this point they realize that something is happening, but Danny doesn't want to go to jail, because they're all like coming together. We're gonna go to the police, so he pulls a gun on them. Which, I get what they were going for, but the problem I had with this was, okay, so his dad gets murdered. Before his dad gets murdered, he makes a call and calls his, he has like a squad of like basically rednecks. Granted, there's like one black guy in there, but like, a squad of hunters, whatever you want to call them, to kill Pumpkinhead. But before that, yeah, Pumpkinhead kills Judge Dixon, and then he goes after the kids, because they basically, in Pumpkinhead's mind, they let Miss O.C. die and get hurt. So they kill the group pretty much one by one. The scene where they kill the couple was pretty brutal, where he like impaled them on a stick and threw them on a branch. That was pretty brutal. That was like, it's probably my favorite kill of the entire movie. Then the creature gets to Jenny, but Sheriff Cunningham gets there in time and basically manages to talk the creature down and said, Tommy, it's me. Jenny wasn't part of it. Pretty much the creature lets them go, but Dixon's posse shows up, and they basically kill the creature. And yeah, pretty much the film ends. So overall, I really like Pumpkinhead 2. I thought it was a solid sequel. It expanded the world a little bit. You can argue it is a little bit of a retcon with some of the origin, but it didn't bother me. It's one of those retcons, it's okay. I thought the sheriff was a pretty good character. I think the teens were whatever, but mostly the movie still relatively is great. I love the creature effects. The movie's paced pretty good. Like, it goes pretty quick. Like, there's no, like, I would argue there's no really any quiet point. You're not, like, bored, right? So, but overall, I'd give this film 7, maybe 7.5. I really enjoyed it. I had fun. I'd watch it. I'm going to check out Pumpkinhead 3 next week. I'll try to review it on Thursday, but yeah, Pumpkinhead 3 we'll check out next week. I'm hoping that's good. I don't know, because I hear from pretty much after 2, it goes kind of to shit, but we'll see. But, so I'm going to watch War for the Planet of the Apes here in a little bit, and then I'll see how I'm feeling later tonight. If I'm not tired or anything, and I don't have anything going on, I'll review not Kingdom. I already read that. War for the Planet of the Apes tonight, but if not, I'll do it tomorrow. So that's so far my schedule. So either tonight or tomorrow, War for the Planet of the Apes review. And then next week, we're going to do the OG Planet of the Apes. And then I'll probably pause on Planet of the Apes for a little bit. And then eventually we'll do the sequels to the original ones. But anyways, guys, I'm going to call it here. Figure out what I'm going to do on Sunday. But yeah, tonight or tomorrow, War for the Planet of the Apes review.